Hi everyone, I'm Bubbles from Susan's family. Today, I'll share with you how to make a forward phone bag, Howard Bagwell edition. For the pattern, you can view it by searching website en.susudiy.com. This bag consists of the main part, the garment, and the facial features, the hair, the hat, and the strap. Start by crocheting the main part, which consists of the arms, the legs, the body, and the head. First, crochet the arms. There are two identical ones, both using the adjustable magic ring. Crochet in rounds around the ring. The stitches used are X for X stitch single crochet, V for SC 2 in 1. Now, let's show. Take the working yarn in right color. Start with an adjustable magic ring. Make a beginning chain. Then crochet 6x stitch single crochets in the ring. After completing, close the ring. Finish with a slip stitch join. Pull tight. This completes the first round. The side with the yarn tail is the wrong side. The other side is the right side. Next, crochet round 2. Make a beginning chain. Then work SC 2 in 1, which means making 2x stitch single crochets in the same stitch. Weave in the ends as you go. Continue working all the way down to complete this round. After completing, join with a slip stitch and pull tight. This completes the second round. The starting yarn tail has been worked in for one round and can be trimmed now. Next, crochet the third round. The stitches in parentheses indicate a group. Times a certain number means to repeat it how many times. Start with the first group. Crochet 3x stitch single crochets first. Then make a SC 2 in 1. This completes one group. Refer to the form to crochet the remaining groups. Join with a slip stitch and pull tight. This completes the third round. Continue following the form to crochet the remaining rounds. The meaning of the parentheses later on is the same as for the third round. Work evenly, which means one stitch to another. The number of stitches after crocheting should match the previous round. After finishing, leave a tail and fasten off yarn. Then crochet another identical arm. After completing, set aside. That concludes the arms. Now let's crochet the legs. There are also two identical legs. Both use the adjustable magic ring. Work in round along the ring. One of them leave a bit of tail and fasten off yarn. The other don't cut the yarn. Refer to the form to crochet the legs as well. After completing the legs, move on to crochet the body. First connect the two legs, then crochet in rounds upward. The new stitch technique used is the A for SC2 tog. Now, let's show. Starting with the leg where you didn't cut the yarn, crochet 11 chains first. Then take the leg where you fastened off the yarn. Begin crocheting from the first stitch. Refer to the form for the stitch pattern. When you reach the chain stitch, pick up one strand of the chain stitch in sequence. Correspondingly make X stitch single crochet. After completing the chain stitches here, continue on the other leg. Crochet corresponding stitch techniques. After completing, you're back at the chain stitch position. Pick up the remaining 2 strands of the chain stitch. Correspondingly make X stitch single crochet. After completing, work a slip stitch into the first stitch. Tighten. This completes the first round. Moving forward, follow the form. Crochet all the way down to the first 16 rounds. After completing the first 16 rounds, proceed to crochet round 17. Start by making 12 X stitch single crochets. For the next 2 stitches, take the arm and crochet it together. Align the right side of the arm with the right side of the body. Then insert hook into the first stitch of the arm. Come out from the right side. And insert into the corresponding stitch of the body. Crochet a X stitch single crochet together. Then from the last stitch of the arm, and the next stitch on the body, crochet a X stitch single crochet together. Weave in the ends. Continue following the form to crochet the corresponding number of X stitch single crochets. When crocheting later, weave in the ends. Then take the other arm. Crochet it together with the body using the same method. Then refer to the form to complete the remaining stitch. Finish with a slip stitch. Tighten. This completes round 17. Move on to round 18. Crochet 11x stitch single crochets first. Then crochet 1 SC2 tog. Let's take a look. One stitch has these two loops. The one closer to you is the front loop. The one farther away is the back loop. This stitch requires work into the front loop of next stitch on the body and the front loop of the second stitch on the arm together. Mindful to insert from the right side. After that, continue by crocheting a X stitch single crochet in next stitch on the arm, then crochet 4 chains. Followed by a X stitch single crochet in the 16th stitch on the arm. Then crochet a SC2 tog in the arm 17th stitch and next stitch on the body. Crochet the corresponding number of X stitch single crochets following the form. Reaching the other arm position. Pick the front loop on the body and the one on the arm, and crochet a SC2 tog. Then crochet a X stitch single crochet in next stitch on the arm, then crochet 4 chains. Crochet a X stitch single crochet in the 16th stitch on the arm. Work all the remaining stitches. Finish with a slip stitch and tighten. This completes round 18. Moving forward, refer to the form. Crochet all the remaining rounds on the body. On the final round of the body, except for the joining slip stitch. Do not tighten any other slip stitches. Continue following the form to complete the body. Note: when joining with a slip stitch on the last round, pick up the front loop of the first stitch and crochet. Don't cut the yarn after completing. This finishes the body. After the body is completed, now crochet the head. Crochet in rounds around the body moving upwards. Now, let's show. Continue crocheting using the previous yarn tail. For this round, pick up the front loops and crochet. At the slip stitch, pick up the front loop of the V shape to crochet. Follow the form to complete this round. Finish with a slip stitch and tighten. Normally pick up stitches to slip stitch. This completes the first round. Continue following the form until you complete round 20. After the first 20 rounds are completed, proceed to crochet round 21. First carry the yarn to the 12th stitch. Enlarge the loop. Thread the yarn ball or fabric through the loop. Tighten. Then hook the yarn out at the 12th stitch. Loosen the carried yarn slightly. Continue crocheting according to the form. When crocheting over the carried yarn, wrap it. Finish with a slip stitch and tighten. This completes round 21. Now let's crochet round 22. First, crochet following the form. After completing the last SC2 tog, crochet the corresponding number of chains according to the form. Leave the remaining stitches unworked. Join with a slip stitch to the first stitch and tighten. This completes round 22. For round 23, work evenly. When you reach a chain stitch, pick up 1 or 2 threads of the chain stitch to crochet. Finish with a slip stitch. Then leave a bit of tail and fasten off yarn. That completes round 23. Now let's crochet round 24. Using the yarn from before, join yarn at the corresponding stitch on round 23. Then crochet following the form. After that, crochet the remaining rounds as well. Once all rounds are completed, leave tail about 25 centimeters, fasten off yarn, and close the opening. Below, I'll demonstrate the closing method. Thread the reserved tail into a needle. Then, press the last round flat. Sew the opposite stitches together. Finally, tie off the tail and weave in it. The head is now complete. Next, sew the zipper onto the opening position of the head. The position of the zipper head can be determined according to your preference. When sewing, you can turn the main part over. Then align the right side of the zipper with the opening. After sewing, you can trim off any excess, or you can leave it inside the bag. If it's difficult to turn, you can also sew it on the right side. Place the zipper inside the opening. Then pick up strands from the fabric surface and sew them to the zipper. Now let's demonstrate the method for sewing on the zipper. First, learn the technique. Then proceed to sew it on. Place the zipper in the centered position. Sew along the opening position. Cut a yarn tail about 1 meter long. Thread the needle. Fold it in half. Tie a knot at the end. Sew a little below the elements. Secure the tail on the wrong side of the fabric. When sewing, don't let the stitches show on the right side. Pick up strands from the surface and sew. You can sew a bit more densely if you like, to make it look nicer. I have a larger gap here. Once finished, tie off and weave in the ends neatly. to make it more secure. You can go back and sew again. While sewing, sew along the raised edge of the zipper. I won't sew this part. One side is now sewn on. Next, sew the other side. As you sew, test by pulling gently. When done, secure this part in place. Make sure to secure it multiple times. After that, tie off and weave in the ends neatly. The zipper is now sewn on. Up to this point, the main part is fully covered. Now let's move on to making the garment. It consists of the top and overalls. Start by making the top. It consists of the sleeves, the front and back pieces, the neckline edging, and the collar. First, we'll crochet the sleeves. There are two identical sleeves. Both are started with foundation chain. Work back and forth along the foundation chain. Now, let's show. First, chain the corresponding number. Then, circle the chain stitches. Join with a slip stitch into the first chain stitch's back bump. Now, crochet the first round. Refer to the form and pick up the back bump to crochet. Weave in the ends as you go. After completing, join with a slip stitch into the first X stitch single crochet. That completes the first round. Next, everyone should follow the form to crochet the second row. After the second row is completed, now crochet the third row. Start with a chain. Then turn your work. K indicates skip one stitch. Skip one stitch on row. Begin crocheting the corresponding number of X stitch single crochets from next stitch. After crocheting, skip 1 stitch again. Crochet another X stitch single crochet. Do not crochet in the stitch of the slip stitch. The third row is now completed. Next, following the form, crochet the remaining rows of the sleeve. After crocheting, leave a yarn tail of about 30 centimeters. Then crochet an identical sleeve. That concludes the sleeves. Next, we'll learn how to crochet the front and back pieces. We will start with the foundation chain. Work back and forth along the foundation chain. Now, let's show. First, chain the corresponding number. After completing, crochet the first row. Start in second chain from the hook. Pick up the back loop and crochet the stitch pattern indicated in the form. After crocheting, the first row is completed. Following the form, crochet the front and back pieces. Leave a yarn tail of about 20 centimeters after completing. That concludes the front and back pieces. Once both front and back pieces are done, proceed to sew the sleeves to the front and back pieces. Place the last row of both pieces facing downward. The right side of the last row is the right side of the top. Sew the sleeves to the armholes. Now, let's demonstrate the method. First, learn the method. Then start sewing. Sew the sides of the front and back pieces together. Thread the reserved tail into the needle. Then pick up and sew 1 or 2 strands from the edge. After sewing, tie off the tail inside the top and weave in it. Then sew the other side using the reserved tail. Now, sew it up on your own. After the front and back pieces are sewn together, sew the sleeves to the armhole. First, thread the reserved tail into the needle. Start by sewing the last few rows of the sleeve side to the top side. Adjust as you sew. The skipped stitches from the first round of the sleeve are sewn to the area below the armhole. Sew the other side in the same way. After sewing, tie off the tail and weave in it inside the top. One sleeve is now sewn on. Sew the other sleeve in the same manner. Next, crochet the neckline edging. Here, I'll demonstrate using a sample. The sample is not for reference, just to demonstrate the method. Attach the yarn in the same placement as the third X stitch single crochet made on the back piece. Pick up the other 2 strands of the chain. Then crochet according to the stitch pattern in the form. For the SC2 tog, pick up the stitch of the back piece and the front loop of sleeve to crochet. Here, the SC2 tog picks up the front loop of the sleeve, and the stitch of front piece to crochet. Refer to the form and complete this round. After finishing, join with a slip stitch to the first X stitch, single crochet and tighten. Leave a bit of tail and fasten off yarn. With that, the neckline edging is completed. Next, we'll crochet the collar. Join the yarn at the edge. The new stitches used include the F for double crochet, the E for treble crochet, the CH2 picket, the T for half double crochet, and the FB for DC2 in 1. Now, let's show. Place the neckline facing you, then attach the yarn in the middle stitch of the 3 slip stitches on the right sleeve. Mind to join the yarn from the wrong side. Make 1 beginning chain. Then work at X stitch, single crochet in the next stitch. Follow with the X stitch, single crochet, and a half double crochet in the same stitch on the left side. Then crochet 1 half double crochet, 1 double crochet, and 1 DC2 in 1, which means 2 double crochets in the same stitch. After that, crochet 1 double crochet, then work 1 double crochet, and 1 treble crochet in the same stitch on the left. Yarn over the hook twice. Insert the hook. Pull the yarn through. Then yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops. Repeat 3 times. That completes 1 treble crochet, then crochet 3 more treble crochets. After that, for the next stitch, work 1 treble crochet, a CH2 picket. Work 2 chains first. Then pick up the both front loop. And the below strand of the treble crochet, make a slip stitch. The CH2 picket is completed. Work 1 treble crochet in the same stitch. Following the form all the way down, finish crocheting the collar. When done, the collar is completed. Next, attach the top to the main part. That completes the top. Now let's move on to making the overalls. It consists of the front and back pieces, the body of the pants, the legs, the straps, the pockets, and the bouquet. Start by crocheting the front and back pieces, both starting with the foundation chain. Work back and forth in rows from the foundation chain. Now, let's show. First, chain the corresponding number. Then start in the second back bump, form the hook. Let's take a look. On the wrong side of the chain stitches, there are these horizontal bars. These are the back bump of the chain stitches. Crochet according to the stitch pattern in the form. Once you've finished, the first row is complete. Now follow the form to crochet the remaining rows. After crocheting the last 5 chains, crochet 1 more chain to secure. Then, cut the yarn. Next, crochet another one using the same method. Don't cut the yarn after finishing. That covers the front and back pieces. Now, let's crochet the body of the pants. Work around the front and back pieces. Now, let's show. Take the piece where you just cut the yarn, with the right side facing you. Then crochet along the stitches. For the chain stitch, pick up the 1 or 2 threads to crochet. After that, crochet along the stitches of the piece. Similarly, when you encounter the chain stitch, pick up the 1 or 2 threads to crochet. Continue working all the way down to complete this round. After finishing, join with a slip stitch to the first X stitch, single crochet. Pull tight. The first round is now complete. Following the form, continue to crochet all the way through round 10. Next, we'll crochet the legs. There are 2 legs. Let's start with the first one. Here I'm using a sample for demonstration. The number of rounds is fewer. Refer to your actual project. Crochet 11x stitch single crochets with the pants yarn tail. Then, starting at the 17th stitch, from the end of the last round of the pants, crochet 17x stitch single crochets. Join with the first stitch using a slip stitch. This completes the first round. Refer to the form to crochet next round. After completing, leave a yarn tail, fasten off, and weave in the ends. That completes the first leg. Next, crochet the second leg. Attach yarn at the corresponding stitch on the last round of the pants. Then crochet the corresponding number of X stitch single crochets. Refer to the form for the specific stitch count. After completing, join with the first stitch using a slip stitch. Then crochet next round according to the form. After completing, leave about 20 centimeters of yarn tail, then fasten off. That completes the second leg. Next, use the reserved yarn tails from the legs. Sew together the remaining stitches on the pants. First, carry the yarn tail to the corresponding position. Then, match and sew together the stitches. Finally, you can add an extra stitch to secure it. This will ensure there's no noticeable hole here. After sewing, weave in all the yarn tails. That finishes the legs. Next, let's crochet the straps. There are 2 identical straps. Crochet them first, then sew them onto the both sides above the overalls. Please watch the demonstration. Start with the corresponding number of chains. I'm using fewer stitches for my sample. Then, start in 5th back bump from the hook. Working double crochets. Complete this row. After finishing, leave a tail of about 20 centimeters and fasten off the yarn. One strap is now completed. Next, crochet another strap using the same method. Once both straps are crocheted, sew them onto the corresponding positions. First, weave in the starting tail on the wrong side. Thread the reserved tail onto the needle. When sewing, have the right side of the straps facing out. Sew the end on the front and back pieces of the skirt. There's no specific sewing method required, just make sure it's secure. After sewing, tie off and weave in the ends. Then take another piece of yarn, sew the other end as well. While sewing, attach the buttons in place. I'm not using buttons as a reference here. After sewing, tie off and weave in the ends on the wrong side. One side is now sewn. Sew the other side as well. That completes the straps. Next, let's learn how to crochet the pocket. We will start with the foundation chain. Crochet along the foundation chain. Refer to the form. Crochet the first few rows first. After that, crochet the final round. The new stitch technique used is W for SC 3-in-1. Now, let's show. After crocheting the first few rows, we will crochet the last round. Make a beginning chain. Turn your work. Crochet 13x stitch single crochets along the stitches. Then crochet at SC 3-in-1. That means crochet 3x stitch single crochets in the same stitch. Then crochet 3x stitch single crochets along the edge. After crocheting, you'll reach the foundation chain starting end. Crochet at SC 2-in-1 first. Then crochet 10x stitch single crochets. Crochet another SC 2-in-1. After crocheting, you'll reach the other end. Crochet 3x stitch single crochets there as well. Finally, in the same stitch as the first X stitch single crochet made, crochet another SC 2-in-1. Join with a slip stitch to the first X stitch single crochet. Tighten. Leave about 25 centimeters of yarn tail and fasten off. Take the right side of the last round as the right side of the pocket. Then, on the right side of the pocket, embroider line segments along these 3 edges. Now, let's show. Cut about 25 centimeters of the same color yarn for the top. Pull out 2 strands from it. Here, I'll demonstrate using any color yarn. Thread the needle. First, secure the yarn tail on the wrong side of the pocket. Then, embroider along these 3 edges. Mindful to embroider at the placement of the last round made. After embroidering, secure the yarn tail well on the wrong side. That's how you embroider the line segments. Next, use the reserved yarn tail from the pocket. Sew the pocket onto the pants. Align the top with the 3rd round. Align the bottom with the 9th round. Then sew along these 3 edges. Now, let's show. Place the pocket in the corresponding position. The side without the embroidered line segments faces up. Then sew along these 3 edges. Note that I'm using a sample for demonstration. After sewing, tie off the yarn tail and weave in it. That completes the pocket. Next, we'll crochet a bouquet. There are 3 bunches of flowers here. Each consists of flower stems and blossoms. Let's start by crocheting the flower stems. We will start with the foundation chain. Crochet along the foundation chain. Now, let's show. First, chain 6 stitches. Then, make a chain. Next, work 1/2 double crochet in the 2nd chain from the hook. Work 1 X stitch single crochet in the next stitch. Continue with 1 loose slip stitch in the next stitch. Then chain 4. Next, along the 2nd chain from the hook, work 3 loose slip stitches. Then chain 3. Make a chain. Then, in the second chain from the hook, work 1/2 double crochet. Work 1 single crochet in the next stitch. 1 loose slip stitch. Finally, on the remaining 3 foundation chains, work 1 loose slip stitch in each. Leave about 15 centimeters of yarn tail, and cut the yarn. So, 1 flower stem is completed. Weave in the starting tail on the wrong side. Now, follow the same method to crochet 2 more flower stems. Next, we'll crochet the blossoms. We will start with the foundation chain. Crochet along the foundation chain. The new stitch technique used is the HDC2 tog. Now, let's show. First, chain 8 stitches. Then, crochet the first row. Work a turning chain. Then, X stitch single crochet in the second chain from the hook. Half double crochet in the next stitch. Next, crochet a HDC2 tog. Start with an incomplete half double crochet in each of next 2 stitches. Yarn over. Pull through all the loops on the hook. That completes the HDC2 tog. Crochet another HDC2 tog. Finally, work 1/2 double crochet. One X stitch single crochet. Make a slip stitch in the same stitch as the X stitch single crochet. Leave a bit of tail and fasten off yarn. Weave in the yarn tail on the wrong side. That completes the first row. Now, let's work the second row. First, join yarn. Let's take a look. A stitch has these 2 loops. The strand closer to you is the front loop. The strand farther from you is the back loop. Pick the back loop of the first HSC2 tog and join yarn. Chain 1. For the next stitch, work 1 X stitch single crochet in back loop. One chain. Work 1 slip stitch in the next stitch. At the end, leave about 15 centimeters of yarn tail and fasten off. One blossom is now completed. Follow the same method. Crochet 2 more blossoms. After crocheting the blossoms and flower stems, sew them onto the overalls. Sew the flower stems inside the pocket. Sew them slightly angled. Sew the blossoms onto the stems. The blossoms on the sides are angled outward. The one in the middle is placed straight. Now, let's show. First, take the reserved yarn tail of the stem, thread the needle, carry the tail over to the other end. Then place the stem inside the pocket. Sew just a bit of stem top. After sewing, weave in the ends inside the overalls. Next, sew the blossoms onto the stems. The blossoms at the sides are angled. Note that this is a sample. Pick up the loops on the wrong side surface. Sew it together with the overalls. After sewing, tie off and weave in the ends inside the overalls. That completes one bunch of flowers. Now follow the same method. Sew the other 2 bunches of flowers as well. Once done, put the overalls over the main part. That concludes the overalls.